Information Man podcast can be heard on 9 major platforms. The second YouTube channel as well. Information Man Speaks podcast. Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Castbox, SoundCloud, and finally Spreaker. Information is power.
White House, conversations
Justin. This is the Information Man. This is the Information
You are listening to Information Man podcast. Information is power. Tell the truth. Podcast can be heard on 9 major platforms. On the second YouTube channel as well, Information Man Speaks podcast. Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts.
All right, everybody, this is the Information Man. I hope things are working better now. And I was having some technical difficulties, and now I'm back. Really kind of pisses me off when those kind of things happen. You know, you get ready for the show, you prepare, and then the technology wants to act phooey on you. So I want to apologize to everybody that came into the chat room, was waiting for me, and that you've come back. I really appreciate it. I see we got Little Rock 2517. I'm looking at my computer over here. We got Brother Aduvian in the household. We've got Reality Simpson, Money Boy, Fims, Nice. Lady M is in the house. And we got Sugar Love that's in the house. What I'm going to do tonight, which will make this special once again, and is that I want to let folks call in. Now, my call-in line, it's a conference style. So more than one person can be on the line, because I want to get into the issue of ADOS as to what has been going on, what has been happening lately. We're all familiar with Byron Allen, who took on Comcast in a lawsuit at the Supreme Court and once again, he whooped their behinds again. He already beat them 2 times in the circuit court 9 court. He already whooped their butt there. And then again, now I've said this on a few occasions, you know, Byron Allen is a businessman. He's going to look after his best interest as a businessman. But there are a lot of things about this 1866 Civil Rights Act that benefits black people in general. Now, you look at someone like Colin Kaepernick right now, and say what you will if you're for him or not, but he could use this same law because of what Byron Allen was able to do in the Supreme Court and many others that supported him. He could use this law against the NFL, or any black person could use this law against unfair practices on the job, in business, on what have you. So as Brother Tone Talks and Yvette Carnell said, you know, this is a big win for ADOS, because ADOS is pushing the issues. And tonight, what I want to do, everybody, and peace to you out there, is that I want to get into the issue of division. As you can see there, ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. And I put on the title tonight, Division, Movement, Reparations, Unity, No Division. And what I mean by that is that you see, you're going to see Dr. King come up on the screen in my little thing there. And Dr. King said, when we come to Washington, we're coming for a check. So Dr. King was down with reparations as well. But what I want to do is talk about the division issues, because all of us have been privy to watching what's been going on YouTube in terms of the situation between Tariq, Tone Talks, and Yvette, the back and forth. I know because I get the tweets every day. I follow all of them on Instagram. No, not Instagram, but Twitter. And I'm getting the messages and I'm seeing the back and forth. And I'm going to say this, Tone Talks and Yvette, they have a strong point. ADOS is centered in politics. You cannot have power without having a political education, political will. That doesn't mean that you got to lay down to the Democratic Party. That doesn't mean you got to go shucking and jiving with the Republican Party. It means you have to stand on your principles. I think it was Fred Hampton, of the Black Panther leader in Chicago, and God bless his soul, in the way they killed that man, the way they assassinated him in Chicago, the Chicago police to be exact. Let's be frank and honest. The brother said that one of the things that we need is a political education. We need to be politically astute, and we got to hit this from all areas. So if Tone Talks and Yvette are coming from a political point of view, we got to hit it from that point of view. Okay. If Tariq is talking about having a conference for the foundational black people of America, whichever way you go with this, and he's talking about it at his conference, he's raising money. People think that he's doing it to grab a bag. Whatever your opinions are your opinions. But I want people to call in, because I want to talk about this tonight. I want to know whatever your opinions are, either good or bad, whether you're for reparations, are you against ADOS, are you for ADOS? But what I want to say is, if Tariq's conference is going to benefit black folks that go there to get a business education, because he's going to have some heavy hitters at his conference, then that's good. But at the same time, we need black folks in the grassroots ground level, doing things at the ground level in the community with our youth and with our children, with the family. So we got to have black people in this movement hitting at all levels: political, social, spiritual, okay, everything, physical. We got to hit it from all levels. So I think that if you looked at the civil rights leaders, you had Dr. King, you had Malcolm X, you had the Black Panther Party, you had the MOVE organization in Philadelphia. You know what happened to them? They got burned, firebombed by, a black mayor allowed that to happen. Okay. You've had many different black organizations. You got black people that are what you call Pan-African. Okay. So everybody has a different philosophy, a different ideology as to how they want to go about getting reparations and fighting for the betterment of black people. I'm simply saying that just as the men that I named, they had different philosophies, but they all wanted the same thing: liberation and empowerment of black people, of our people. So if Tone Talks in Yvette can get just galvanize black people that are born here in America, who have a lineage to slavery. And this is where people get it always stuck. It's not just slavery. We can identify the oppression in Jim Crow and how black men and black women and black children were treated during the years of Jim Crow, coming out of slavery into Reconstruction. And we know in South Carolina, black folks were doing pretty good coming out into Reconstruction for 8 years, and then they destroyed everything there in South Carolina. But within those years of Reconstruction, going in, then there was Jim Crow, and then there was inmate leasing, where they would lease black men who were wrongfully convicted and put in prisons. So prisons was another form of slavery, because the prison phenomena didn't take off until black men and black women were released out of slavery into Reconstruction. Then from there, we know that the policing that we see in this country, with police officers mistreating black people, the policing system comes out of slave patrols, people who were bounty hunters looking for runaway slaves. Then we have the Harriet Tubman. If you have not heard, everybody, it looks like that they are going to replace the $20 bill and with Harriet Tubman in replacement of the racist Andrew Jackson. And if I'm not mistaken, Andrew Jackson was the one who went against a Supreme Court order when he dragged and mishandled Native American people across the southwestern part of this country, which was called the Trail of Tears. And we know that Native Americans have gotten reparations. Mind you, they've been put on the worst land when it comes to reparations. They're seen as a sovereign nation. You got the phenomena of the Indian, Native American casinos, which we have a lot of those out here in California, where I'm at. We know that Obama, when he was in office, he told black people to stop whining when we had issues that we wanted addressed. But yet he gave Native Americans millions of dollars. That was about 30 tribes that he gave millions of dollars to. We know that when it comes to the LGBTQ community, Obama did everything he could to push their agenda. When it comes to the DACA issue, we know that Obama was involved in pushing the DACA, pushing their agenda. We know that we had the Black Caucus, we had the NAACP, who was involved in fighting for the rights of people that are DACA, even though they're not even technically citizens. The kids may be citizens, but their parents broke the law coming over here. I was listening, I did a video not too long ago about homelessness problem in Los Angeles. And there was a brother that I took an audio from this brother that was on my Twitter. It was a black man. He was homeless in the Skid Row area of Los Angeles. And what he was saying is that, why don't they focus on the home? Focus on people like myself that's homeless. Because if I go in a store and I rob a store, that's breaking the law and I'm going to go to jail. And he said he has gone to jail and he paid the price. He said when people from across the border sneak across the border and break into this country or come over into this country illegally, they're breaking the law. His point is, why should they be treated different than I would be when I'm a citizen of this country and I'll go to jail for robbing a damn liquor store, which is breaking the law? While he sits in his tent on Skid Row in Los Angeles, California. And nobody talks about that. While the NAACP is fighting for DACA, you had Byron Allen say what you will about Byron Allen, whether you like him or not. The point is, he was fighting for a civil rights law that definitely impacts us as black people, in the way I see it, where the NAACP was caping for another group, but not caping and pushing our agenda forward when they're the black caucus. There is already a Hispanic caucus. A black caucus is supposed to, in my opinion, fight for the issues of its constituents, which is black people, because the majority of these black politicians have been elected to office because of us. ADOS, black folks. American descendants of slavery. Now, I want folks to call in so we can talk about this, because this is another issue that I want to bring up. Some people have a problem with that label, American descendants of slaves, because some black people will say, well, I'm not a slave. Well, currently you're not a slave, but maybe your ancestors were in slavery. There's some people who would have a problem with the name American because they'll say, I'm not American, I'm black, or I'm something else. They don't want to identify with American because black people, we see that there's a certain pain that comes along with the word American. There's a certain pain that comes along with the American flag and how we were mistreated. And when people are throwing salt on Colin Kaepernick, and then we find out that the song, when you pledge allegiance to the flag, or when you put your hands over your heart at a football or basketball or baseball game, we're finding out that the song has a third stanza in which the man who wrote the song was a staunch racist, and the song was about killing black people, black slaves. So the question is, how can I stand for a song like that when the stanza in it that they don't play, of course, is about killing my people? And how can I stand for a song along with the flag when it's been a part of black people's oppression? So there are some people will have a problem with that term American. Some people will say, well, I'm black. Some people will say, I'm not African. I'm not a slave because I'm Aborigine. I'm original to North America. I could shoot that down by saying this: black people are native to the whole goddamn planet. Whenever anthropologists do digs in the earth and discover new places, when you go to different places where black people are dark skinned or melanated in their tone, it's because black people were there. How do you think Italians, Sicilians got that dark skin? It was the Moors of North Africa who came into Europe and controlled parts of Europe for decades, controlled Ireland, controlled what we call Italy. That's how you got dark people over there. When you go to the Philippines, they have a historical history of people that were pygmies, dark pygmies. Black people were there. Everywhere they dig on this earth, they will find out that it was. So the whole planet belongs to us because we are dark mattered people. So there is no need, in my opinion, to debate over where we come from when the whole planet belongs to us and black people have been all over this damn globe. What we need to understand when we get into these labels like ADOS is that we are ancient people. We derive from an ancient heritage. People talk about Egypt and pyramids. Africa is more than just Egypt. There's other great civilizations, Timbuktu. There's great civilizations that were built in the continent of Africa. Not just Egypt, but we talk about Egypt because Egypt has the most extraterrestrial landscape in terms of the architecture and the pyramids and the energy. I've got a pyramid right here. Someone sent me this as a present, during my birthday. And it's got a little crystal in there that takes in energy. Here we go. It's very nice. Our history goes deep. And our history in this country we call America goes deep. We fought in every war, from the Revolutionary War, Spanish-American War, everything. Vietnam War, World War I, World War II. Black people have fought in every war. We've had black folks who have had their land taken from them during Jim Crow. We've had black people who came up with inventions and had their inventions stolen, their patents stolen. So we can look at a long legacy just in Jim Crow, not even just slavery, that allows us to make a claim as ADOS as to say that we deserve reparations. This country owes us. Many ethnic groups come to this country and they've been riding off of the backs and coattails of black people. See, without us struggling and fighting for civil rights and fighting for to change the laws, there are people in this country that would have never been allowed to come here. We have paid the way. And so there are some that will say, well, ADOS is divisive because it's the splitting black people from other black people, that black people who come from the Caribbean, black people who come from Africa. I say this, I'm not trying to split anybody. I have a lot of respect for my Caribbean brothers. I have a lot of respect for my African brothers. But I know for a fact that in the Caribbean, they're already fighting against Great Britain to get the reparations that's due the Caribbean people. When you look at parts of Africa, they're fighting in courts to get reparations from Great Britain because of what has done to them. So black people who were born in America, who have a lineage to this country, we are simply saying that America owes us a debt for the things that we have built in this country. When you look at New York, Chicago, Boston, what do they all have in common? They're port cities. They're all cities that are by a body of water. How do you think New York got created? During the triangular slave trade, a lot of companies that are around today, Wells Fargo's, a Bank of America, a PJ Morgan, all these different companies, they had their lineage in the slave trade. Some of these companies were putting money in building ships to go nab, grab, and steal black people, put us in shackle slavery. Some of these companies invested in making the clothes for slaves. So a lot of these companies that are around today that are worth billions and trillions of dollars owe a lot of their success and money to their involvement economically in slavery, which allowed them to be what they are today. Anybody in the chat room, anybody listening, call in. I'm going to turn up the volume so that you can call in. I don't have anybody on the line right now because I can tell if someone's on the line, but call in. The number is 605-313-5658. The code number is 571128. What I want to say is that we don't need division within the movement here in America with black people in America. We don't need division because we have to learn from our ancestors how they infiltrated organizations like the Black Panther Party. They infiltrate the Crow and Tail programs in this country to infiltrate black organizations. I think it was J. Edgar Hoover himself who said there will never be a black messiah. I won't allow it to be a black messiah. We cannot afford to be fighting each other over these different semantics and labels. We need to be fighting for what we deserve, what we need. Whether you are ADOS or you believe that I'm foundational, Black American, whatever terms you want to use. And I know Tone Talks and Yvette made a distinction that their movement has a political tag to it because to get reparations, you have to be political. Let me make this clear too. What's going on? We got Fly C's in the house, Lady M, Kim Jones, Brother Rob is in the house, Sonia C's. I'm glad to see you all here. In order to get there's some that would say this. This is another argument that we can bring up. How do you expect your enemies or the government to give you reparations if at the same time you say, hey, this is a racist country, they've been oppressive towards us, and we say, hey, we shouldn't vote for the Democrats because the Democrats take us for granted? Maybe we shouldn't vote Republican because the Republicans don't really give a damn about us. So if we got a political game that's rigged, how are we going to get reparations by asking the very people who have oppressed us historically to give us reparations? Some would say that that doesn't make sense. Just like some would say, and I would say this, that when black people sent their kids to schools to go to school with white kids, or when there was forced busing, when black people were segregated, either a de facto segregation or segregated themselves or were segregated because of Jim Crow, the idea of I'm going to send my kid to go to school with those that have been oppressing me, thinking that they're going to get an education by those that have been oppressing me, doesn't make sense logically if you ask the question. One would say that, well, other groups that have been oppressed in this country have been able to get something of a reparation out of this government. Japanese were put in camps and they were able to get something for their oppression. Jewish people certainly went through a Holocaust that was in Germany. But we know that IBM was involved, the American company was involved with putting the number tags on their body. We know that Wall Street had some investment in what was happening in Germany to the Jews, but Jewish people were able to get a reparation for what happened to them. And many times they will tell black people, well, how can we give you a reparation when it happened so long ago and you don't have anything on video, where Jewish people, everything that happened to them was on video? But there's already historical records and documents. And we have some of the best scholars in this country who have documented and talked about and shown the evidence of our slavery through the Middle Passages. We have, there's even documents that show how they sold slaves, what companies brought the slaves, what slave masters brought the slaves. So let's have this conversation. And my thing tonight, again, is the running theme tonight for me is that we can't afford to have division, because when you have division, it allows for infiltrators to destroy the movement. That's how all the other black organizations were neutralized, because of the division. Everyone has a different philosophy. Everyone wants to be in their tribe. I get it. But we need to have one mindset, which is what is in the best interest for black people in American society, as ADOS. So call on in if you can. The number is there. You see it on the screen, 605-313-5658, code 571128. Call in. Let's have the discussion. Let's talk. Whether you have a different opinion about ADOS or positive or negative, whatever, we're going to talk. Let's talk about it. I definitely want to get some dialogue going here with someone. So call in if you can. While I do that, while I wait for someone to call in, let me just go here and do a little bit of advertisement here. Right now, you are listening to the Information Man Show live on the podcast, where I go by the name of Information Man Speaks Podcast. This is being broadcast for YouTube, my first YouTube channel, Information Man Show. I have a second channel, Information Man Speaks Podcast, and you can check out my YouTube channels if you can, if you like, subscribe to them, as well as check out all the different platforms that I'm on as far as podcasts are concerned, because I would definitely appreciate the support of you being able to check out all of the platforms that I'm on, and I'm going to hit a button and let that be heard. All right, let me stop that right there. So I can be heard. Let me just rattle it off myself. I can be heard on SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, okay, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, what's the other one? Castbox. We got a iHeartRadio podcast as well. So those are some of the podcast mediums that I can be heard on. I appreciate everyone out there who is listening to the broadcast. Let me shout a few people out. Brother Rob, it's good to see you there. We've got, let's see, Clyde Lewis is in the house. We got George Frazier in the house. A lot of good people. Greg Harrison in the house. Sonia C's in the house. Kim Jones in the house. A lot of good people in the house. Let's see, Harris in the house. Jasmine Virgo in the house. And then we got a lot of good people that have come in. Gaming Plus TV. Thank you for being here. I had I had some technical problems in the beginning when I first came on. And now I'm glad that I could fix the problems and come back on. I just hate when technical problems do happen. It is what it is, but I'm glad to see you all here listening to the program, and I'm waiting for someone to call in. Is anyone there? Okay, no one's there. I'm going to wait for someone to call in. So what is everybody's opinion in the chat room about ADOS at this particular time? Where do you think you see it going? What do you think needs to be improved? What do you think are the downfalls? What is your opinion about some of the issues that are going on right now with Tariq and his opinion about it? There's this whole thing about agents. Tariq is calling people who are ADOS agents and the whole back and forth thing. And we can't afford to do the divide and conquer, because the people who we deem our enemies or people who are not in our best interest, they would like nothing more than to see the whole movement implode on itself and go nowhere. So what are your thoughts? Once again, call into the program at 605-313-5658. 571-128 is the access code coming across the screen. Call in. Don't be shy. Let's have a conversation. I'm not going to be on here super long tonight, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out to you all and get your thoughts. Let's see. He says, P. Diddy, he let it be known that Byron was right, that black stations are not getting what the white stations are getting. Yeah, he's absolutely right. Black radio stations and black magazines and black publications are not getting the advertisement dollars that their white counterparts are getting. Now, he made a serious allegation against Al Sharpton, saying that Al Sharpton is the shakedown man, that Al Sharpton is getting all the money. He's getting the bag, but everyone else is not getting the bag in terms of the advertisement money. So when P. Diddy came out and said that, and he's a man in business, I would think that he knows what he's talking about, because he's willing and dealing in business himself. And so what's fair is fair and what's wrong is wrong. You just can't do this. So I personally feel that Byron Allen did the right thing, even if some people, myself or anybody, believes that he did it for his own business interests. But that's what a businessman would do. But what he did could have some trickling down effect for us when we're fighting in court over these similar issues. Okay, I'm still waiting for someone to call in at 605-313-5658. Access code is 571-128. It's a conference call, so more than one person can call in. I can have many people on and we can have this discussion. I'm going to continue. I'm going to wait a while, see who comes on to discuss more about this. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think ADOS, the movement, and identifying yourself is important for us as Black people to identify ourselves with something. The question is, like I said before, the semantics of the wording. People don't want to be associated with slavery. Let's be honest, because it has negative connotation. If you go to Brazil, a lot of the Brazilians that are Black, they don't like to sometimes identify themselves as Black. A lot of folks in Brazil, because when you identify yourself as Black in Brazil, it's seen as having one foot in the slave quarters. And so even in America, there's a sort of shame, there's a sort of embarrassment about identifying yourself as a slave. And I know there's black people out there that will say, well, I ain't no slave. So that turns them off. As I said, there's some people who don't like the idea of the American twist to it. But last time I checked, we live in America. We're in America. We're not in any other country. We're here. And we must identify with the soil that we're on right now, which we have built. Black people have paid a heavy price in this country. Our ancestors have paid a heavy price. We're still paying a heavy price even today because we're the only group of people. Hear what I'm saying to you folks. We're the only group of people where we live in a country where they had to make laws to give us the rights that everyone had by birth. They had to make laws to give us the right that everyone else had by birth. Other groups that came over here, the Irish, Asians, Italians, everyone, when they came over here, they didn't have to worry about laws being made to give them the rights. Yeah, you had Irish people when they came over, they would deal with slurs, saying no one apply. Dogs in Irish should not apply. So Irish people were talked to very nasty, but eventually they were able to do what? They were able to assimilate into the system. And then in turn, those same groups of people who came over, when they got picked on and they were able to assimilate into this American system, they turned around and they start messing with black people. They start picking with us. We know when you look at the Godfather movies, what did the Godfather say? He said, put the drugs and the dope in the black communities. Let them get high on the drugs because they're animals. Other ethnic groups have come here and they have impacted our community with drugs, manipulation. People come in this country and they move into neighborhoods that we have lived in for years, and then they treat us like we are non-citizens. They treat us like crap. Talk to us any kind of way. Disrespect us any kind of way. This is why I don't feel bad to see black people come together who are born in this country with lineage to this soil, come together, unite for our issues. Everybody else does, and nobody complains. Another thing I'm getting sick of is I was on a program the other night with my man BMT, and we were talking about integration and was that good or bad for black people in this country? And when you talk about that topic, you can't get away from talking about slavery, Jim Crow. All those things play a role in that. And of course, you got another black person that comes on the panel and wants to start talking I'm tired of hearing y'all talking about slavery or what happened in the past. You don't know where you're going in your future if you don't know your past. I think James Baldwin had a quote like that. You have to know where you're going. You have to know your past to know where you're going in your future. I never hear other black people or anybody of any race tell Japanese people or Asian people who were on the railroads, building railroads along with black people who built the railroads. I never hear anybody tell Jewish people or other groups who have been oppressed when they talk about what has happened to them. No one tells them to be quiet and stop talking about their past. But only when black people talk about our past as it relates to where we're trying to go right now in the future, you always will find some black person or somebody that will tell you, stop talking about it. There's an old saying, he who does not know their past and their history will be doomed to repeat it. You know, history repeats itself. So that's why you have to know what's going on, so that you have an understanding of what's happening all around you in 2019, that you'll understand that there's nothing new under the sun. When you have characters like Donald Trump and any of these politicians, there's nothing under the sun. Peace to everybody in the chat room that's come in. Let me say peace to the Male Advice, brother Male Advice, who was in here earlier. I see we got Benzo in the house. Peace to you. I know, brother, that you're from the Caribbean. I know that we've had these debates about why do black people in America have friction with people from Africa or people from the Caribbean. I would say this, that we both have attitudes with each other, but I think it manifests itself from the fact that we both have been oppressed on one level or another. People from the Caribbean have been oppressed where they come from. Black people have been oppressed from the standpoint of where we are here in America, in our history. So we both have been oppressed, and we also have both been culturally conditioned. As my man Joe Madison of XM Radio always says, we've been culturally conditioned to underestimate, undervalue, and marginalize each other. And that's why some black people will treat each other with disrespect. Because if you've been oppressed by an occupier, for Africans and folks in the Caribbean, they've been oppressed by colonialism. Black people, we've been oppressed by the slavery system here in America. When you've been oppressed for so long and you've been told all your life that you're ugly, you don't matter, you begin to, what do you call it? You begin to project and counter-project and counter. There's a thing called counter-transference, and you project that what you hate in yourself onto others. And that's why when we deal with black people in business and we marginalize each other, and we think because a black man has a business that he's supposed to give us a discount, but we don't do the same thing when we deal with white people or any other group of people in business. We go to the Korean hair stores or Korean-owned black hair products, and they're selling us above market price on products. And I don't hear black folks complaining about that. They continue to go in the stores. Ladies continue to go in store and buy that artificial hair, wearing the hair that comes from someone else. And I believe that you should never put someone else's hair on your body, because you're putting another person's spirit into yourself. Some other spirit was a part of that hair. That's not your spirit. So we have a lot of disrespect for each other. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about the whole issue around division. How we can't afford to be divided, but we get divided. We need our brothers and sisters from Africa in the Caribbean to understand our plight as much as they want us to understand their plight and what they've gone through in the land that they have traveled here to America from. Because certainly if things were better in Africa or in the Caribbean, folks that live in those places wouldn't come to America, where black people in America sacrificed, marched, got shot, fire hoses and dogs were put on us. Black men were hung in the South like fruit on trees, as Billie Holiday sings. See, that's our history. Some of our history. If you don't understand that history that we come from and how what we went through, we made some of these streets safe for people to come over here from other countries. We made some, for those of you who come from other countries, our African brothers, our Caribbean brothers who are able to move into any neighborhood that you want to move into, you owe that to us. Because there was a time, if you were a black person in this country, you could not live in any neighborhood. You could not do what you wanted to do. There was no equal opportunity employment. We are the ones that made that possible. That's why we get an attitude when people from other countries come over here and disrespect us as we see it. because we made a hell of a sacrifice. When you look at affirmative action, and other groups are benefiting from that to get into school, that was most of these laws, these civil rights laws, and all these different laws in this country to protect one from race, from prejudice and mistreatment because of the color of your skin. Most of these laws that are in place that people are benefiting from were based off of the backs of ADOS people. I'm here to tell the truth tonight, and that's for sure.
Tell the truth.
Is anybody on the line? Hello.
Yo, Info Man, you can hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm glad you're here. Is this Brother Rob?
Yeah, this Brother Rob.
Okay, I recognize your voice. I'm glad to hear you. Peace to you, brother. I'm glad to finally hear your voice. Come on, brother. Help me out with this tonight. I want any thoughts that you have, good, negative, or bad. It doesn't matter. We need to talk this out. And let everybody know who you are. First of all, let everybody know who you are, what you do, because you are an educator. You work with the youth, and any programs or things that are going on in the community that you're involved with, brother. Let everybody know about you.
No doubt. Well, number one, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Man, I think this is a very important topic, and it needs to be talked about. Number two, my feelings about ADOS and everything that's been going on. When the ADOS movement had first got started, when it first got lit, my initial feeling about it was, well, man, we moving away from our cultural identity, you know, and we making it all about America. You know, and in doing that, I felt like because America has such unstable history, especially with Africans living here in America, I felt like you know, it probably can't go nowhere, you know, to be honest with you. But I kept that to myself because, you know, we had a bunch of people in the community at that time that was claiming a lot of different things. And, you know, because of the distinction, you know, American descendants of slavery, I felt like maybe that would be like a rallying cry in a way, or like a moniker that we could all kind of get under. You know, and the leaders of this movement, they might have had good intentions, you know, but again, because it was built on such shaky history, you know, that I felt like it wasn't going to ever go anywhere. The only good thing that I thought was going to come out of it was that it would be kind of like a rallying point, you know what I'm saying? We all descendants of slavery, you know what I'm saying? So it should be easy for us to rally, you know, under that moniker. So that was my initial feeling. And now with the fallout, with all of this kind of stuff, man, this is the same thing that we've been dealing with, I say, in the last 20, 30 years. You know, we got flawed leadership.
Well, let me ask you a question, Rob. Brother Rob, I'm gonna let you do most of the talking. I just want to throw this in there because you said something that really is important right now. We have flawed leadership. Now, let me just say this. I like what Tone talks, you know, I like what they're doing because they're talking about something that we need to get ourselves on track with, a political education. Fred Hampton talked about that. So I was saying earlier that Black people, we need to have people hitting this issue in all areas. So we need to have Black people who know the politics like them hit that. We need to have the Black people who are on the grassroots in the streets to get folks in the streets galvanized, right? So we need to have, you know, conferences. We need to hit it in all areas. But the problem is this: the history is latent, and our ancestors, Malcolm X, Dr. King, everyone. There's probably a lot more people I can name, brother, but we already have the blueprint for how they destroy our movements. And if we haven't learned from that, That's why I said, if you don't know your history, which is why it's silly when people tell you don't talk about what happened in the past. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it in your future, and you'll make the same mistakes that caused the Black Panther movement to be destroyed and many other movements, because everyone wants to be the kingfish. Everyone wants to be the leader, right? And that's our problem,
Right.
because we get too caught up in this Messiah mentality. Go ahead, brother. I just wanted to add that. And let me say one more thing. Peace to everybody in the chat room. We got my man Stillwater Nation in there. Still Winter Nation in there. Still Winter Nation in there. Peace to you. I'm going to be shouting out other people that's in the chat room. We got my man Brother Rob on right now. We're talking about the issue of ADOS and good or bad, where it's going, what we need to be doing. And we definitely don't need division, because that is the key to how these kind of movements get destroyed. So with that said, let me get back to Brother Rob. Continue with what you were saying, brother.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you bring that out. Me personally, if you notice the content that I put out,
yes,
man,
sir.
I'm not talking about nobody. I'm not talking about nobody.
Right.
What the hell I look like? You know, me and you, we both in the same community. We both understand what our problem is. And I'm going to take my time out to point out all of your flaws. Like, man, like we don't have, you know, better things to do with our time. Like, I just think that is so self-destructive, but indicative of the propaganda campaign that they've been waging since we got here. You know what I'm saying? We look at ourselves, you hit it on the head earlier. We look at ourselves in a negative light. That's why we can't do business together. That's why we can't debate together. That's why we can't even have a conversation like this together.
Right.
You know? And I think that it's important now that people understand. This is about, you know, it's a lost tape that they got Dr. King, and he say, you know, basically, in the speech, he's basically saying that this is a Emancipation Proclamation that Lincoln can't give us.
Right.
This reparation that we talking about. Hey, can't no white man on planet Earth give it to us. What gotta happen is we gotta be so unified that the people dictate what the leaders do, and not the other way around.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me say a quick shout out to JT Coins Range. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat.
I really appreciate that. We got Make'em in the house. We got Zone in the house. We got a lot of people in the house. I just want to say peace to all of you. I'm not ignoring anybody in the chat room, but this is a good discussion. I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm checking out what's happening in the chat room. Thank you for being here. Do me a favor and share the video. Share it in your social media. Share, because this is a very important issue that we're talking about right now. This will also be podcast, and you can hear this on Spreaker, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts as well, iHeart Podcasts, Anchor, all the different Castbox, all the goodies out there in the podcast world as well. This will be distributed to those areas when I have time to pop it over there. Back to the discussion at hand. Just so you know, anybody who else wants to call in, you can call in, because this is a conference call. So even though I have Brother Rob on, anyone else can call in. I can take many people on the conference call, and we can have a more rich discussion. So you don't have to wait until the brother is no longer with me. It's a conference call. So anyone else can call in while the brother is still on. Not a problem at all. So, and the number you see is right there, 605-313-5658, code 571128. So call in, folks, add to the discussion. Brother Rob, continue, brother.
Yeah, I was just gonna say too. I'm gonna be doing a build real soon on my channel, and I am plugging it, you know, because I think people need to hear it.
Right.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna detail all of the major events that changed things for us politically, socially, and economically here in America. You know, and I start from 16, 19, and I work my way all the way up till now.
Right.
You know, like I'm right now, literally as we talking on the phone, that's what I was doing before I found your podcast.
Okay.
And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna detail it. You know, so it's gonna be somewhat educational. But then at the same time, what I'm trying to do with the bill is the name of the bill is called The Need for Black Power. And we have to redefine the term, right? Because see, when you say black power, instantly you think about the counterpart, which is white power, right?
Right.
And white power represents what we clearly know to be something negative. So it's a negative connotation that's associated with black power. You know, Stokely Carmichael wasn't talking about nothing negative, you know what I'm saying, when he said black power.
Right.
You know, it was just the transition from King to him, you know, and he just came in with some forceful words, you know, that resonated with the youth at that time, you know, black power. So, you know, for our generation, I feel like we need to redefine it. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to do with the bill. One more time, the name of the bill is going to be called The Need for Black Power. And again, what I'm trying to do with the bill is detail all of the atrocities, all of the things that happen to us. And that is the reason why we need unity. We need it more than ever.
Yes.
You know.
Now speak to this, Brother Rob. We got Brother Benzo in the chat room, and I think Fly Seas is saying that that you have to get reparations from Great Britain because, you know, currently right now there's a thing called CARICOM or something like that. The Caribbean, they have unified to try to get what has been due to them from Great Britain. And you got countries like South Africa who are trying to get the land back. So every group of black people in the diaspora of the world is doing what they need to do on their ground level. We're doing what we're trying to do on our ground level. What is your thought when people say that ADOS is a negative thing that's dividing us? Because we're simply talking about those of us that were born here who have an ancestry claim to what happened to our people here that is separate from the brothers in the Caribbean and sisters and brothers in Africa who already, from what I've done in my research, I did a video about this. I showed the footage. They're already getting in the asses of the Europeans and those in Great Britain about what happened to them. So why is there all this? Why is there a problem whenever black people who are born here in America, when we begin to say what our issues are? Why is that a problem? I mean, what is your thoughts on that?
Again, I feel like it's propaganda.
Okay.
We were all victims of the transatlantic slave trade.
Okay.
Right? And so because we were all victims of that, that's how we share a similar ancestry. You know, so when people say people from the Caribbean or people from Haiti or to me, the only difference is a boat stop. You know, the reason why you Catholic is because your oppressors were Catholic. The reason why most black folks in America are Christian because they oppress us. We're Christian.
That's right.
The reason they speak Portuguese, man, they oppressors was Portuguese. You know,
That's
so
right.
like, you know, people can say what they want. We only separated by these artificial titles that we give some land that they took from people that were here. You know,
that's true.
So literally, that's what we doing. I mean, what is the difference between somebody that's from Jamaica versus from Haiti? What is the difference?
Well, some would say that like you just said, the only difference is that the boats, the ships were dropped off in different locale. And so the locale that you were dropped off, the locale that you were dropped off in will dictate the culture that you were born in. So let's say, for example, this is the deal. More black people were dropped off in Brazil than any other place in the world. So you do have a large legacy of Afro-Brazilians or black people in South America. So only a small, I think it was only about maybe 8%, a small percentage of black people that were dropped off in America. Then there were a percentage of those that were dropped off in what we call the Caribbean today. But the majority of black people were dropped off in Brazil. And in Brazil, and what I noticed about the Brazilians is that those of them that are woke, they still recognize some of their African history, and then there's some who don't want to recognize it.
That's what Carnival, man. I'm so glad you said that.
But
that's what Carnival is all about.
Right. Let me just say this. But there's some of them who sometimes don't want to acknowledge their African heritage because in Brazil, they say it's having one foot in the slave quarters. It's a negative. So in Brazil, there's this thing where they try to marry white to mix up the blood so that the kids don't come out, with the dark skin. So those are some other issues that do go on in Brazil. And then there are those that are very proud of who they are in Brazil. It's almost the same problems we got here in America with the way black people are.
I would go so far as to say, yes, they are the exact same things that were pointed out here in America. It was clearly proven by Dr. Gordon, him and his wife, when they did the doll test. When they did the doll test in 1950, you clearly see the psychological damage. They redid it. I can't remember. It was in the 2000s, though. Anderson Cooper did it. And when he did the doll test, they got almost the exact same, but slightly severer in terms of the students that they selected picking white dolls. They picked them a little bit more with the students from this time period, this generation. So we know that it was some psychological damage done with the propaganda campaign. That's not even questioned. The only question is this is well, I guess the only question to me, what I'm saying, is when are we going to recognize that we share a very similar cultural experience, and that is the reason why we need unity. That is the reason.
I think the goal has always been to keep us divided and conquered. And that's the reason why at this time, when I'm looking at my Twitter and I see the back and forth that's going on Twitter around this issue, it looks really bad because I'm looking at history and I'm saying, damn, is this could this derail? If you have a fraction of people that say, well, I'm down with Tariq, I'm gonna go over here. I'm down with Tone and Yvette. That fractures. We need more hands on deck than we need people split. Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't need people we don't need people monitorizing the movement. We don't need people trying to make it into some commercial type thing. Because this is definitely not what it is. But let me say this, and I want to get your thought. If you look at our history when it comes to revolutionary actions, there never really was what you would call a scholar or someone who knows a lot of math or numbers. These people, scholars, have never really led revolutions. Revolutions have always come from the grassroots, people on the streets, people rising up. It never, I don't know one intellectual person in history. I mean, Malcolm X was intellectual, But what I'm saying is Malcolm X is a byproduct of the streets. He came from the streets. He was a brother who hustled and he fought and he became a Muslim part of the Nation of Islam. But I don't recollect a time when you had someone that was an intellectual. You know, you get all these Negroes on television that intellectualize everything, but they don't really move the crowd of people. It's usually the brother from the brother and the sister on the streets who really move the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. Yeah. I would say France Fanon is a clear example of that. Mm-hmm. He had distinguished what we refer to as cognitive dissonance. Right.
Right.
He describes it in his book very well with great detail about the way that the African living here in America walks around with a double consciousness and can justify a lot of the things that happens to us. And so France Fanon is definitely a person who was an intellectual, had the solution, you know what I'm saying, mm-hmm. but did not move the people. You know what I'm saying? It took a Harry T. Moore. It took a, Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers. It took them guys to kind of move the needle, if you will. You know what I'm saying? When France Fanon was writing. Right. So that's definitely somebody that I think about. Somebody else I think about, George G.M. James. We sit here now, 70 years later after the book, and we like, man, this is powerful. When George G.M. James wrote that book and he died, you know what I'm saying, and people was thinking that maybe he got killed or whatever, he ended up dying of a heart attack, a major heart attack. So It wasn't a conspiracy theory. But anyway, when he wrote Stolen Legacy, people wasn't like, oh my God, this is the best shit since sliced bread. People wasn't like that. People was like, well, hey, that's nice. He wrote a book. I mean, hey, the Greeks stole all of their culture from Africans. Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that book that book was so deep. And then I'm a student of Ivan Van Sertimer. They came before Columbus, 800 BC. He talked about how there were Africans traveling over here, trading gold and silver with native people. They talked about the pyramids that you begin to see in South America and throughout the area. There was a connection between the technology that was in Egypt, what we call Egypt, or the land of the black Kemet. There was some sort of exchange of technology between the two cultures, and there was a black presence. And then he documented in his book the stone heads. They directed these huge stone heads because they thought that the Africans who came over to this land were gods, and those stone heads are in museums. He documented it. And then, of course, the anthropologists try to say, well, the reason why the features were Negroid with the thick lips and nose is because they had jagged instruments when they designed it. No, those were the features of the people of the country of that culture, which is why when you go to Egypt and you look at the Sphinx head, all the statues have the noses and the lips off. That's not a damn coincidence, right? We know that Napoleon's little midget little butt, he had his men shoot off of those statues because they didn't want the world to know that a dark race of people actually created these monuments. And the thing about pyramids, brother, that's so interesting is that that they were not built bottom up. They were built top down, and nobody can figure out how the hell they could have done that in terms of white anthropology and science. Math.
Yeah, it's math. If you look into all of the pyramids, you know what I'm saying, across the world, right? It's always dealing with math. They call it sacred geometry, you know, and so sacred geometry is in everything. It's in nature. It's in grass. It's in water. It's in everything. You just it's a code almost. Well, not almost. It's a code. And once you learn the sequence, you can apply that to anything. You know, you can apply it to beauty. You can apply it to ugliness. You can apply it to trees. You can apply it to it's a code. You know what I'm saying? Apply it the how you would graph it if you was drawing it as a algebraic equation.
Mm-hmm.
It would look like the shell of a snail. It would look like the swirl in your hair, or like how the universe look. You know what I'm saying? It's called sacred geometry.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
But man, while we on the subject, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I always wondered this out loud. You know, I mean, it don't seem like you suffer from it, but why do Black people? Why do we not want to embrace our history? I know it's special. It sounds almost like science fiction in a way. You know what I'm saying? But
I think
like, why wouldn't we want to be associated with the greatest cultures of the world? Why?
Well, I think it's the same thing
I think
it's the same thing that our brothers and sisters in Brazil suffer from, because a lot of times when they talk about our history, they always, especially in American schools, you know this, they always focus on the slavery and the Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. They talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. So it's always sort of the same regurgitated history that we begin to get sort of tired of, because we want to hear better things. But I think one of the problems why Black people sometimes get like this is because we don't want to hear the negative things in our history, the negative things that happened to us. I think once Black people have gotten comfortable where you got a flat screen television, you got a house, you got a car, you got nice clothes, and you go out into the world where you feel like people are treating you okay, in some cases, you begin to feel like, why do we need to talk about the negative things that happened to us in history? Because you as the individual feel that everything is going great for you, right? And so you begin to think that everything is okay. I think when it comes to Black men, when Black men, and I know some people are going to get, this is going to get on some people's skin, but when Black men are able to have access sexually to other women of other cultures, sometimes Black men who get this sexual access will begin to believe that somehow that represents that they've been liberated, they have arrived, that racism isn't really what it was in the past. Your sexual access to different types of women does not make all of these factors go away. So I think a lot of times we get bamboozled by the shiny trinkets of the lifestyle that we live, that we feel that everything, we have arrived, everything is good now. Why talk about racism? Why talk about the past? You know, brother, I was on with brother Yalpo the other night talking to him, and he said that what we need to understand is that a lot of times when you talk to your white counterparts, when I was in school, they will often say, well, we had nothing to do with slavery. That happened a long time ago. Once again, why are you talking about history? But the fact of the matter is, they have benefited economically today by what has happened in yesteryears. They are the main benefactors of it. So if they're benefiting from what their ancestors did to us in the past, and they're benefiting from it economically, why is it that we can't benefit from what happened to us? Yalpo made this example. He talked about the guy who came up with the Batman character, and how a lot of people have been eating off of the Batman character who are not even related to the guy who created the character, right? He had a daughter. The daughter did not write it. She didn't come up with the concept, but come to find out, because of court battles, she is entitled to get all proceeds of money from what her father or grandfather created in terms of the Batman character. She would have the right to it. So, Brother Rob, if you built a big business, your children would have every right to that. So therefore, why would Black people who are living today as descendants, why would we not be entitled to the things that happened to our forefathers who worked this land, worked this country, built this country with no pay, poor treatment, poor conditions. Why will we not be entitled to that? Just like everyone else would be entitled to what their heirs have left for them. Why would we not be entitled to it?
Man, that's principally, that's where the whole reparations argument stands. We are entitled. We're not asking for something that we don't deserve. We're not asking for something that's not, you could have gave it to us, but you chose not to, and this is another quote from Dr. King. He say, at some point, silence is betrayal.
Right.
And I know that it had to be some people after the end of the Civil War, after the end of Jim Crow, after the end of the so-called war on drugs. It should have been somebody in Congress, in the White House, on the Supreme Court that felt compelled to be noble and say, "Hey, look, wait a minute, we gotta square this thing up." It ain't been nobody in history, other than Thaddeus Stevens, that didn't ever stood up and said what needed to be said. You know what I'm saying? Nobody. I can't think of nobody in the history of Congress in this country that has ever stood up and said it would need to be said. From our side, yeah. But from their side, not at all, fam.
Okay, well then
he's the only one that I can think of.
Okay, well then this is the question too. The problem, see, the thing is, this is where people who are ADOS are not going to like this part of where I'm going to go with that. How do we expect, because people are going to say this, how do we expect to get a reparation if those who we have to get it from have the mindset that you just said right there, that they've never had a history of doing anything in our behalf without us making them do it, without us putting pressure on them, because we know pressure busts pipes. They've never done anything without Black people creating a movement. Now, I know ADOS is fashioning itself into a movement. Yes. But why? Well, how can we expect them to make us whole when we still see Black men and Black women being oppressed by cops on the street? We still see disparities, as Tone talks and Yvette talks about. There's a disparity economically as it relates to Black people in business contracts. Hell, we just had Byron Allen going to the Supreme Court against Comcast because of their unfair practices. So with all these things that are happening, how do we expect that they're going to give us this when they have never shown any desire? I mean, there's a brother, brother Rob, on, I think on Tuesday. What is the brother's name? There's a brother, you've seen him on YouTube. He's involved with Tone Talks and all of them. He's got videos where he's been going around. Tariq has been calling him an agent because this brother has been going to different places where politicians are at, and he's confronted them, asking them, hey, what is your thoughts about reparation? I mean, he's confronted all of them. And of course, Tariq is saying, oh, this guy's an agent because how can he get close to these people to be able to ask them those questions and all that kind of stuff? I mean, most of these environments that this brother is going to is public. So all other people are also talking to them as well. But that brother's going to come on with me on Tuesday to talk about this issue further. And I'm going to ask him these questions about how related to these politicians and the way they're dodging and dashing away from this issue. But what is your thoughts about some of the things you've heard me say?
Yeah. Well, I number one, this is what I don't do, right? What I don't do is I don't hop on just because somebody says something. Don't mean that I start believing it. You know what I'm saying? Especially on YouTube. I just came to be a little more skeptical about what YouTube people say, big YouTubers, as we say, right?
Yes.
And You know, that is extremely petty of Tariq Nasheed. I gotta say it out loud, to be talking about somebody else. Look, right? You can't make yourself look better talking down on somebody else. You can't. So that should have never came out of his mouth unless he got some proof. And then if he got some proof, it is his obligation. Not it would be nice. It's his obligation, because he got people listening and watching for him to present that proof so that he could protect the community. Other than that, keep your mouth closed, talking down on people, and you don't have any proof. That's my issue with it. You know, I don't mind you saying it. Everybody got a right to say whatever comes to their mind. But when you start disparaging people's character, talking about they working for the enemy, and man,
Right.
that's where I draw the line.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Unless you got proof, you need to be cool.
Right, brother Rob. This is why we got to learn from history. When you look at W.E. Du Bois and his whole talented 10 scenario of the educated taking us, and like I said before, if you really look at history, scholars have never been the ones that have really led us in revolution, but his whole thing was about the education, the scholarship, right? Now, when you look at Booker T. Washington's perspective was that Black people need to be grounded in economics, owning land, having businesses, right? And both of these two were at each other's, they were going back and forth. There was some hating on one another. Okay. A lot of people don't realize that Booker T. Washington, while he was talking about having land and being independent, because people thought he was an Uncle Tom, and I hate to use that term, but people thought that. Guess what? He was giving money under the table to fund what we would call revolutionary Black groups at that time. And on W.E. Du Bois' deathbed, he admitted that he wished and regretted having this back and forth with Booker T. Washington on these philosophies. And he said that he admits that Booker T. Washington did have it right. And so here's an example in history where you've had two great men, as far as we know in history, who went back and forth at each other. There's always been Black people who have had criticism. We had Black people that were critical of Dr. King and what he was doing because they didn't feel that we should be put into, immigration. We shouldn't integrate with white people. And there's some people who didn't like Dr. King for doing that. But in the end, imagine if Booker T. Washington and W.E. Du Bois were fully united. Imagine the power of Malcolm X versus Dr. King if they would have united together, because near the end of both men's life, Dr. King became very angry and frustrated, and he was starting to become more like Malcolm X in the end. And Malcolm X, after going to Mecca, he came back with a different perspective, as you already know. He started to change and soften up, in a sense, from saying that white people were the devil. He had a different perspective. Imagine if they could have united, how dangerous, how powerful. Well, definitely they would want them to be together, how powerful they could be united under a movement versus being divided by their philosophical differences. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love the way that you broke that down. The dichotomy between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, it's heavily documented. And I would say, that I would have to agree with W.E.B. Du Bois that Booker T. Washington had it right. Sometimes our leaders have to say things that they really don't mean in public. And that's why John Henry Clark, the wisdom of John Henry Clark, he said we have to understand the political meaning of history. Booker T. Washington was growing. We got to give our people some room to grow.
True.
After he came back from Africa, Booker T. Washington was just as revolutionary as any other revolutionary that you could put up on the map. Now, I know You know, he done made some speeches where people could call him a coon. You know, like that speech that he made in Atlanta, right? That's where he caught most of his flack with the black community, and he never recovered from that. And W.E.B. Du Bois made sure that he wouldn't recover because of all of the things that he was saying about Booker T. Washington.
Yes.
But Booker T. Washington ended up passing away. But had he not passed away, you know what I'm saying, I think they would have kept it up for another 10 years. You know, because both of these men were ego driven. Now, in closing, I'm going to say this, right? Some of our leaders, we got to allow them to have some ego.
Okay.
If you want to get some, man, pardon us, I know that this is usually a family discussion, right? But if you want to get some shit, done, you got to let the goons loose. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what it was. You know, everybody was trying to be so dignified, right? That's why Marcus Garvey wasn't taken seriously by W.E.B. Du Bois at his inception. You know what I'm saying? That's why. Because they was looking at him like, man, this young fool full of ego, dressing like a sailor, talk about black folks go do this and black folks go do that. They thought Marcus Garvey was crazy.
Right.
That's what it was.
Well, let me ask you this.
Garvey, once he got my fault. Go ahead.
No, brother. I like everything that you're saying. I just wanted to ask you this question. It's very important. Sometimes our strengths can also be our weaknesses. So I think you do need a certain amount of arrogance. If you look at all of our leaders, women and men, even your athletes, black people in history, they all had something in common. They had a super ego. They thought very highly of themselves. Malcolm X, he had a super ego. Dr. King probably had a super ego. Let's say Muhammad Ali definitely had a big ego, right? All of them, that's sort of what makes them great to rise above, because they have to have this sort of confidence in them. You can't be a leader who doesn't have any confidence in yourself and you're sort of like unsure of yourself. So to a certain degree, you have to have that, but it could also be your undoing if your arrogance is to the point where you begin to think that you're a god and that you can't work with other people, and then you begin to become full of yourself. That's where it all goes down the drain. And what I'm going to ask you right now is, do you think with the whole ADOS movement right now and the things that have been going on the web and stuff, can the arrogance, the overconfidence, can it hurt us? Can it hurt this movement? Can it hurt what's happening if people's egos get too much in the way of what the true goals are and objectives?
Man, it's certainly the possibility that it can happen. You know, I mean, anything can happen. You know what I mean? You know, at the end of the day, right? Because we already see that the car crash is about to happen. It is our obligation. One more time, I love that word. It's our obligation to make sure that we get in Tone ear, that we get in Yvette ear, that we get in Tariq ear. Hey, look, brother, for the sake of the people, we got to unify. Now, the next time we get in front of a camera, this is what we going to say. That's a sophisticated conversation, though, Info. And that got to happen behind closed doors without nobody looking. And it got to be in you to do something like that. Again, you got to be noble about it. We done lost our nobility. You know, think about them pictures from the 1920s and 30s. Every time you see a brother, he got on a jacket or a tie. You know what I'm saying? The sister, she dressed to the nines. You feel me? Right. Got on a girdle and a slip. You know what I'm saying? Because they was noble. You know, look at us now. What we doing is we looking at reality, we looking at society through white folks' eyes.
Right.
That's not, man. Look. It's a book. It's written by this guy. His name is Joel Cotlin, and the name of the book is called Tribes. Right.
Right.
He talks about how Caucasians are against Arabs, and Arabs are against the Indian, and the Indian is against the Chinese. And you know what ethnic group he didn't even mention in the book?
No.
Us. You want to know why? Because we not economically unified, so we not even a threat. That's the issue, brother. We gotta look, man. The solution. Mm-hmm. This is my closing statement. Our solution is it lies within us.
Okay.
Right. We do two things starting tomorrow, and if we do it religiously, by the end of the year, everything will change on planet Earth. That's my word. Be prejudiced with our love and be prejudiced with our money. If we did them two things, I guarantee you by January 1st, the whole planet will change.
Well, let me get back to something that you said before you go, brother. You talked about economics. You talked about power. We talked about black power, there's white power, what have you. I've always been taught that you can't have black power without economic power and political power. All those things encompass each other. So when we talk about black power, you got to have the economic base being built. What is that economic base? Well, we have to start off with the basics. Black people should be supporting black businesses and stop hating on one another and stop going to that black business and saying, why you make your prices cheaper for me? We need to support black business, keep the dollar circulating within our community amongst each other as other groups do. That's a small base of developing black economic power. Support each other's businesses, have cooperative economics. As they say in Kwanzaa will be coming up soon. Cooperative economics is very important. Another aspect that I want to bring up too is that, I was talking to Yapo about this and how, once again, getting back to infiltration of movements. This is the thing that I've said before on another stream. If you really want to be revolutionary and you really want to have a plan and a strategy, we really can't talk about it technically on YouTube. If you're really about having a strategy, you don't get on YouTube and tell the whole world, because your enemies are watching too, what your strategy is. You actually do that behind the scenes. So you see a lot of people on YouTube who get on YouTube and tell you all the stuff that they're going to do while at the same time talking about our enemies. True strategy is that you don't talk about the strategy on social media. That is to be done behind the scenes. So if I have for example, if you came out with the term or the hashtag ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, and I came up with the foundational Black American, as Tariq came up with, and I got a problem with you, you got a problem with me, it would be in my better interest to talk to you about these issues behind the scene and not make a public spectacle. And if we can't get past our differences behind the scenes, then we just move our own way without me having to get on YouTube or any social media and talk about you like a dog. Because we forget that the people it's not only Black people that are watching us, but we have other groups of people that are watching us and they're entertained by this kind of stuff. They're popping popcorn. They're enjoying the back and forth. Another thing that gets lost in the sauce is that we as Black people need to realize that a lot of this movement is the sacrifice that we should be making for our young people. Some of us are not going to be alive to probably see reparations or see any of these things that we're trying to lay ground for now. We should be thinking about our kids in the future And the problem when people are arguing about these issues back and forth is that they're not thinking about the future. They're thinking that they're going to be here forever and they're going to reap these benefits. What about the kids? And what about young black women and young black men, youngsters who are getting most of their information, 70%, I believe, from YouTube? The last time I checked, they're not watching TV like they used to. They're listening to this. They're listening to this division, and it creates a confusing perspective in their minds to be listening to grown people going back and forth on these philosophical differences. And if we don't get past these philosophical differences and keep our eyes on the prize as to what is the real objective, which is what we want for black people in the best interest of us, these types of movements are going to fall under just as other movements fell under because of some of the same similar dynamics. So, Brother Rob, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, brother.
Okay. I said a mouthful right there, but I just wanted to get your thoughts. And anybody else that wants to call in, it's a conference call. So anybody can call in while Brother Rob is on and still get your points out there. I'm going to give you the number again. It's 605-313-5658. The access code being 571128. Call in. I'm going to be on for just a little while longer before I end this stream. But Brother Rob, you have any other statements you want to say in conclusion? Because I know you probably have things to do, brother. Anything else you want to say?
No doubt. Just to add on to my proposed solution, right? You don't need to pass a law. You don't need to, a mass movement. If one or two people just started and then it catch on, right? What's understood need not be explained. You know what I'm saying? And so people will start following suit. The issue, though, that we have is cultural identity, right? Because when you practice something like what I'm proposing, it's usually a cultural thing, And so, if anything, I would say to the listening audience, man, get more familiar with your story. Kind of hard to love yourself if you don't know who you are.
Right.
Kind of hard to do that. And, because we don't know who we are, of course, that gives our opposers room to operate in our communities where they make this money right in our face. And we sitting around talking about we need jobs, we need this, we need that. All we need is each other. We got everything we need except each other, So, man, my phone about to die info, man. I just want to weigh in on the conversation. I feel like this conversation is needed. And
before you go,
I was telling people the other day, I'm gonna definitely be dropping way more content, and everybody look out for that build that I'm gonna be doing real soon. And it's called The Need for Black Power.
Peace.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so,
yes. Well, let me before you leave though, let me show you something. I was talking to Yapo. Yapo's got a website, and he's saying that he wants to use this website as a way for brothers and sisters to put content on the website so that it doesn't get censored by YouTube or anything else. So he's gonna have a podcast on there. I'm gonna show you the site in just a minute. He's got a magazine that he's working on. He wants to interview people. Let me put this site up. Hopefully nothing will go wrong with the
I'm sitting right here in front of my laptop, so I'll be looking for it, and I definitely go to the website and lock it in.
Yeah, you know what? I'm having some let me see what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it back up again. Hang on for a minute. I just want to show you this before you leave. See if this thing will I got to share it on this screen. There we go. And go back there.
Yeah, that's why you sharing the screen now.
Okay.
It's just all black.
Yeah, let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of this red in the background. There we go. So Can anybody see? Oh wow, I gotta put that back in the stream. There we go. Update successful. And I'm hoping everybody can see that. So can you see that, brother Rob?
No, but I do get a delay on my laptop, but I can't see it.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm hoping. Yeah, there you're gonna see it's coming up. It's coming up. I had to
yes,
send
sir, I see it now.
Yeah.
I see it now. Guy with it looks like a photographer.
Yeah, let me scroll down real quick so you can see a little bit of what he's got going on this site. So basically, that's the name of it, Diavo Media. He wants controlling the narrative. Up, you mighty race, accomplish what you will. And then there's Yalpo with his beautiful wife there. He says, welcome to the media where we control our own narrative, stand on descendants of enslaved Americans in America. We are a new tribe within the diaspora. For far too long, our people have suffered under those who would portray us negatively. So this is what he's got going on. Unapologetic. He has, let me see here. So on the website, you've got the magazine. Let me see if I can pop this on the screen here. He's got the magazine where he's going to put stories. And then he's going to have a podcast and a store. He's got a bookstore for books, where you can get that knowledge about books that you're talking about reading. And he's got Up TV, where I guess that's going to be a way for people to load their videos, their stories onto the website. So he's got some nice things coming about. Channel guide. So he's got some good things coming with this website. He's going to be interviewing people, and this is going to be a place where people can put some of their content without worrying about it being chopped down by YouTube. And then he's going to have a blog on here. It's going to be a blog and everything like that. A Black Man's Journey blog, taking control. So Yalpo, he does very good quality stuff, man. He's got good things going and coming. I just want everybody to see that real quick. Let me get back to my screen here. And
yeah, I'm gonna definitely check them out, man. If you can put the link at the end of this video.
Oh yeah, what I'm gonna do, which I should have done. I had some technical problems tonight going on. I had to reload the stream back up. I'm gonna go put his link in the description of this video, most definitely. But brother Rob, I appreciate you being on tonight. I'm going to send you, I think I have your email, so I'm going to send you a link so that if you want to listen to the podcast broadcast version of this, I'll send you a Spotify link when I load. This will be loaded up to Spotify sometime tomorrow so that you can listen in on it, on that level of it, brother. And everybody in the chat room, make sure you share the video. Please share the video in your social media with your friends, through your Twitter, Instagram, however you want to do it. Just go ahead and share. Brother Rob, again, tell everybody about your YouTube channel, where they can find you at, brother.
No doubt. You can find my channel, Bro Rob, BRO.ROB. And on there, like I don't have a lot of videos, but the videos I do have, I would have to say that they are of high quality. You know, the information I mean. You know, so with that, man, thanks for having me info, and I'm going to keep listening.
All right, brother. Thank you for being here. Everybody, that was Brother Rob. Sensational, brother. He made good points. I'm very happy that he called in and joined. I'm going to stay on for just 1 minute in case someone else wants to call in and have a dialogue with me for a short time. I'm going to end this very soon. But if anybody out there would like to call in and say anything about the discussion that me and Brother Rob had tonight, or anything that's on your mind around this issue of ADOS and what's happening out there around this movement, go right ahead and call in. But while you do that, let me read something to you. I did a video some time back talking about the numbers and how they could pay black people this reparations because people think that, well, they ain't got no money to pay black people. Yes, they do. Check this out. This is a plan. 42 million African Americans. Okay, so to give all, this is about a cash payment and financial assessment plan. And I went over this in a video that I did, but I'm going to go over this again quite just in summary. To give all 42 million African Americans 125,000 would cost 5.25 trillion. As okay, now if you say that we all are going to pay 42 million of African Americans 5.25 trillion over 50 years to 100 years, then the cost of reparations is about 105 billion a year. For comparison, the United States government spends 604 billion on national defense in 2016. That was what they spent in national defense. So for people out there who say that they could not give black people reparations, if they were to break it into an annual check that you would receive for 50 to 100 years or more, so therefore your family would still be getting this money even after you are gone, that's generational wealth being built. Okay? America pays 604 billion in national defense just in 2016. Okay? 15%. Okay, 15% of the total spending and net interest on government debit payments were 240 billion. However, 5.25 trillion figure is unlikely on the household level, not the individual level. So they're talking about household level when they're talking about this $125,000 a year. This is talking about a household level annual payments. However, let me go into it here. The first is that the plan is focused on the household level, not the individual level. The second is that the number of African Americans is going to increase over time. The federal government expects the United States population to reach 417 million by 2060. If we believe that African Americans will remain at 14%, or 13% of the population, that means that there will be 58 to 60 million African Americans living in the United States in the next 40 to 50 years. Okay, the federal that's an increase of 50% from the current population numbers now. The federal government estimates that there are 2.63 people per household in the United States. Dividing 42 million by that number gives us 15.9 million households, and divided by 60 million by that number gives us 22.8 million households. Consider that birth and death rates are not stagnant because people are going to die. Now, to account for the death over a span of this program, if they were to give this type of program, the estimate that the total number of individuals involved would be 20% more than the number of participants about half a century from now. I'm using, or this art, what I'm reading is that they're using the 2060 estimate of 470 million United States citizens and about 60 million African Americans. Adding 20% to the number would give us a total, 72 billion African American, 72 million African Americans who would have participated in the reparations over a 50-year period. Assuming the number of people per household remains constant, that would give us around 27 million households. Given 27 million households, 125,000 each would cost 3.375 trillion over 50 years. That would average out to a cost of 67.5 billion annually. For comparison, the United States government spends about 49 billion on foreign aid in 2016. So the money that they spent on foreign aid and defense doesn't even add up to paying us a reparation an annual payment if they were to go about that way. This is the Information Man that you're listening to on the Information Man Show, and it's also being podcast on the Information Man Speaks podcast as well. This is about information being power.
Information is power.
Because we got black folks that get on these channels, these platforms talking about they ain't got no money, and then they're also talking about, oh, black people gonna spend the money. I don't care. Black people can do whatever they want to do with whatever money they get. However, if we have money to spend, if we have economics on this level, we can build our own damn schools and educate each other on how to manage our own money. We don't need them to do it for us. We'll take the money and build our own schools, buy our own land. This would also benefit black people when it comes to health, because healthcare costs money. Education costs money. All this kind of wealth would benefit us tremendously in a very positive manner. They've given, check this out, almost actually about 1% current projected spending for the fiscal year of 2017 is $4 trillion. The Obama administration had planned for $41.9 billion in foreign aid for the year. Polls show that Americans typically believe that the United States spends 25% to 27% on foreign aid. Not true. Technically, the United States is only spending actually 1%. Believe it or not. And Obama, when he was president, and God, we wished he would have done more for us, he gave $41.9 billion in foreign aid. So America has the money. It is, and guess why they have the money? The money that they would be giving us is our own money, because black people pay taxes too. We work too. We put in so it ain't just the fact that we're getting money off the backs of our ancestors, but hell, we're getting money that's owed to us, and also we pay taxes. Personally, I think that all black people in America should be exempt because of what happened to in this history. We should be exempt from all taxes. When we get our check, we should get all gross, all of it. We shouldn't have to pay for education, medical care, and we shouldn't have to pay taxes. That's my opinion. I know it sounds radical, but that's how I see it. I want to appreciate everybody in the chat room that took the time to come in here and listen to Information Man talk with Brother Rob, talk about the issue of ADOS, share the video. I thank you for your patience. I am going to put a crescendo on the live stream tonight. I would have liked to have other people. Let me see if anybody else is on the line. Okay. Nobody else is on the line, so I guess I'll shut the open lines down. But I want to thank you all for being here, being a part of this broadcast. Once again, this is the Information Man Show and Information Man Podcast. For those of you listening out there in podcast land, let me give some shout outs before I leave. First of all, let me give a shout out to my brother Ben, who has a podcast called Seriously Not Another Podcast. I want to say peace to him. I want to say peace to the Black Brain Trust. Check those brothers out over there. They're doing a hell of a job. Check out the Prophet of Thought series. He does live streaming on Wednesdays and Thursday nights. Check out my man, TR Nareed X. TR Nareed X, he's a musician. He'll help you grow your channel. Brother's got great things going on his channel. Then there was the brother that I interviewed a few weeks ago, a brother from the community who has a show on public television in the Bay Area in LA, and that is the Close the Deal Show. I want to say peace to Brother Terrence McGray out there of the Close the Deal Show. He has a YouTube channel, the Close the Deal Show. Check it out. Then we got my man Gab Talk Media. Check him out. He's got great things going on. We got Marlo's Boxing. Check him out. Check out Marlo's music channel. Brother is excellent. If you want to relax and listen to piano and learn how to play the piano, he's the brother to check out. Then we've got my man Lions Den. He has Lions Den ADOS. That's his channel. Lions Den ADOS is his channel on YouTube. Seriously Not Another Podcast. They podcast, so you can catch them on Spotify, all the stuff that I'm on. Check them out. And he's on Facebook too. So if you got Facebook, just put that in there. Seriously, not another podcast. And you'll see Brother Ben going at it on Facebook, talking his talk and doing his things. Got a great podcast out there. I am going to interview the brother that I was talking about who's been a part of this ADOS movement. He's the brother you see him on video confronting these politicians, these clown politicians. I'm going to have him on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Western time, 5 p.m. Central time. On Sunday, I have a young lady who goes by the name of Authentic Talk. She's a motivational speaker, a very beautiful sister. Me and her are going to have a conversation. I've got another brother that will be coming on with me probably a week from now, a brother who's in business and he's into tech, and we're going to be talking about Afro Tech. Afro Tech was a big convention that happened in Oakland, and it has to do with Black entrepreneurs, Black people that are involved in technology and computers and science and all that kind of stuff. It's called Afro Tech. I'm going to talk to him about Afro Tech and what that means for us as Black people. Very important. I've got great stuff coming your way, folks. This is what I'm doing, folks. I'm opening up the Rolodex. I'm going to be bringing people on that are just not on YouTube, and I'm bringing Black folks on out there who are doing real stuff in the real world, in science. I'm talking about Black folks that are in business. I'm going to bring some brothers on that I've been watching that have a podcast that talk about sports. So I'm bringing a lot of different people onto my show, bringing you quality content in the coming weeks, in the coming months. You're going to see an upgrade of the type of people that you're going to be hearing on Information Man's show on this channel. You're going to get an upgrade of quality folks that's doing some damn good things, and you're going to get quality people that are already on YouTube doing stuff on YouTube that I'm going to be bringing onto the platform to interview. There's quality folks doing great things on YouTube, and there's quality folks doing things off of YouTube in all different areas. So that's what Information Man does. I may have a live stream once a week, maybe 2 times a week, but when I do go live, you're not getting no bullshit. You're not getting bull crap from me. You're going to get a quality, as best as I can, a quality program. So with that said, thank you everybody for being here. Make sure you share this video. This is the Information Man, and I'm out. And thank you everybody. I love you. Peace to all of you. Peace.
You are listening to Information Man podcast. Information is power. Tell the truth. Information Man podcast can be heard on 9 major platforms. On the second YouTube channel as well, Information Man Speaks podcast. Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Castbox, SoundCloud, and finally, Spreaker.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Information is power. You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel. You are listening to Information Man podcast. You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Tell the truth.
sure to subscribe to his channel. Information is power. You are listening to Information Man
Tell the truth.
Information Man podcast. Information Man, please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Peace, everybody. Good night. Thank you for your support.